Y'all, every year is in fact an election year because there's always an election happening somewhere in this country. Today, we're going beyond the Beltway to unpack two mayoral races, one in Colorado and the other one in Florida, and why they are so supremely important for our politics. This past Tuesday, the city of Colorado Springs held a runoff election for mayor, and Yemi Mobilide became the city's first elected black mayor after defeating his opponent, Wayne W. Williams. It's important to note that while the mayor's race in Colorado Springs is in fact nonpartisan, the mayor-elect is the first mayor not affiliated with the Republican Party since Colorado Springs started electing mayors 45 years ago, breaking the conservative stronghold Republicans have had on the city. Democrats in the Sunshine State also had a historic win when Donna Deegan defeated her DeSantis-endorsed Republican opponent, Daniel Davis, and became the first woman to be elected mayor of Jacksonville. She's also only the second Democrat to lead the city in 30 years. Greetings to you both. I'm so glad y'all are here. My first question to both of you: what do you think the American people should take away from these two very different, but I think slightly similar, mayoral races? First to you, Chair Merritt.
Hi there. Thank you, Simone, for having me. And so with folks like Lauren Boebert as their standard bearer here in Colorado, the Republican Party has veered so far to the right and is in such disarray that they've effectively closed their doors to unaffiliated voters. And the Democratic Party has instead spent the past decade building a coalition that welcomes unaffiliated voters and moderates and progressives. And we support folks' freedom to get a good paying job or make their own abortion or healthcare decisions. So when an inspiring community-oriented candidate like Yemi does run, that coalition is activated and we can make history even in a place like Colorado Springs.
Chair Henry.
I would say the same thing happened in Jacksonville as well. Donna was one of those unity candidates that I think only come around once in a generation. She ran on a platform that involved loving everyone, making sure that she was focusing on local issues that were important to Jacksonville, high-raising crime that we're seeing across our city, the infrastructure spending that's desperately needed in underserved communities, and tamping out corruption that we saw in our city hall. And the alternative that they had on the ballot, I think, really didn't really present a case that was effective for voters to really understand what they wanted to do. And Donna was the best placed candidate to do that.
I have long since said that infrastructure and investment are key, but you also have to have a good message and great candidates. But they all have to converge at one time. Let's drill down. Chair Merritt, I'm going to start with you because Mayor-elect Mobilide, he is not only the first black mayor for Colorado Springs, right, but he is the first mayor that is not affiliated with the Republican Party. Actually, he's an independent. Now, when I talked about this on the Twitters, I made the point that folks cannot underscore the work that the state Democratic parties did to help in Florida, but also in Colorado. And people said, oh, well, but the mayor-elect is an independent. So break it down for us. How did, or did Democrats not work with the mayor-elect to organize on his behalf, even though he is unaffiliated, as you all like to say?
Yeah, so Yemi isn't unaffiliated, which in places like Colorado Springs gives people kind of a permission structure to know that they can make choices. And unfortunately, the Republican Party wants the most extreme MAGA-oriented nominees as possible in every race across the state, from dog catcher up to U.S. Senate. And so, again, their most prominent leader in the state and their standard bearer, Lauren Boebert, spends more time hanging out at Mar-a-Lago and giving speeches than actually focusing on the issues that you talked about, like infrastructure or solving the Colorado River crisis. And so I think the next frontier of politics is local, especially in Colorado. And just like in Colorado Springs, we're going to have to make sure that voters know that they have choices, which is why the Colorado Democratic Party is organizing earlier than ever in places that we haven't won. Democrats are still the minority in county commissioners, election officials, sheriffs, and district attorneys across the state. And so we're starting to move into the rural areas to make sure that folks know that, especially in these important local seats, they do have a choice.
Okay, Chair Henry, let's talk a little bit about your county and in Florida, because there was everybody talks about it, a disastrous showing in the midterm elections in 2022. So after that, the Florida State Democratic Party, they elected a new chair, Nikki Fried. She says the win in Jacksonville is a backlash against an atrocious legislative session. What can we glean from this, if anything, about future elections in Florida and Democrats in Florida, Chair Henry, being competitive statewide again?
Yeah, I think after Ron DeSantis was able to win re-election and win this county in 22, they really thought that they had this mayoral election in the bag. So their candidate, Daniel Davis, just really focused on right-wing issues the entirety of the campaign and never really drifted to the middle. Donna was able to kind of take advantage of that message and focus on local issues that were much more appealing to independent voters. They were key in order for her to make up the margin that was necessary for her to win this office, not only the second time in the last 30 years. And I think that's a testament to not only the support that our party was able to give her, but I think to the change that we were able to bring to the Florida Democratic Party as well, focusing on candidates that were the best situated to get across the finish line.
In November of last year, it seems like it was just yesterday, but it was almost months ago that a mass shooter killed 5 people in an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. Chair Merab, did the mass shooting at Club Q have an impact on the outcome of this election in any way?
Yeah, I think so. You know, the Republican sheriff in Colorado Springs chose to not enforce some of our most important gun safety laws that we've put on the books over the past few years that we'll never know if he had chosen to enforce them could have prevented that tragedy from happening. And so I think Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, they're all tired of Republicans getting in the way and obstructing progress on these issues. You don't know if you can go to a grocery store safely anymore. You don't know if you can go to a nightclub, a movie theater, your high school. I mean, Colorado has seen a dramatic increase in mass shootings over the years. And whether, you know, you're on the left or right, I think everyone wants to be able to walk through their communities and know that they can be safe.
You know what? Before I let you all go, Chair Henry, while I have you, I must ask you about Ron DeSantis, and specifically that, you know, I can't pass the opportunity up. I'm really interested in Senate Bill 266. The governor signed that into law this week. The law actually banned the state's public colleges and universities from spending money on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Now, when this bill was in the House, I had Chairman Shervin Jones on the show, and we talked about how it was under fire because the language included the removal of historically Black fraternities and sororities. The Senate removed that language, but is this bill going to have an impact for organizations such as those financially or other programs? I think that's something people want to know. And then what are Democratic lawmakers in the state going to do to combat this? Yeah,
I think it's going to have an effect regardless. What we've seen, particularly when it comes to some of even of our primary schools, when the last bill passed in last session, is that they may pass this bill and say, oh, it'll have a little bit of an effect. But these universities are going to go overboard to ensure that they don't bail the wire of the DeSantis administration. So I think you're definitely going to see colleges and universities across our state really dial their tones back when it comes to ensuring that there's equity in their programs, making sure that they're setting up opportunities for students to be able to really feel like they're safe and they're diverse in their environments. So I think this is going to have a negative impact on our college campuses overall. And it's something that I think Democrats are really going to be using in the 24 election to try to make gains in the legislative.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. To my two local Democratic Party chairs, Shad Merab, Daniel Henry, thank you both very much for your insights. Appreciate you.